911, what is the address of your emergency?
78. Help!
Aliens about 1 operator 6180. What's the address of your emergency?
1797 Sumter Street, we're being robbed at gunpoint.
No. They're following me to my house. The guns are already out. She's shooting. Okay.
Hello and welcome to Stop the Threat. My name is James Towle. On this week's episode, we bring you back to the Lone Star State of Texas for a reenactment which we have entitled Forced Flat. Thank you all for being here. We're going to be looking at a criminal enterprise today that we haven't seen before. This may be a growing enterprise, I don't know. But I am going to probably start this with, because it involves a woman, are we seeing more women coming to any of your classes, Wes?
No, on the professional side, no.
No.
We're literally, over the course of our last year of training, seeing maybe less than 1% of the officers that are coming out into these programs as female officers. And there have been a couple that have been right up there with the guys on the range. I mean, just absolutely dynamic. But the vast majority seem to be a little intimidated by the actions in the class or their fellow classmates.
In general, would you say women are becoming more interested in being trained? Not necessarily law enforcement. I want to speak more about the, good citizen.
I think I see more women at the range than I used to.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Sure, that's what I'm getting at.
Clubs and things that I belong to and all, I think, shooting. Now, I don't know how serious they're taking it from a defensive perspective. It might be as much a recreational pursuit, but still you have more women, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I don't think we care. As long as they're coming to the range, right?
Exactly.
We don't really care. I mean, the reason why I say that is because doing a little research, we've come up with 1 in 3 women worldwide experience physical or sexual violence, which would lead one to think, Rich,
they would
that
like
they
to learn
would
how
want
to defend
be
themselves.
Right. Yeah. And what have you seen?
I've had a lot of women who I know locally, personally, that they ask, "Hey, will you teach me how to shoot?" Yeah, but they don't follow up on it. And I think they are a little nervous about that. Because it's seen more of a masculine thing as opposed to something you can do to defend yourself.
Okay, so let's play with that a minute. Does that mean that it's because it's a mixed class? I mean, are women clubs, groups, organizations that are all women more successful than mixing the class? Because you've kind of let me think here that they're intimidated by the male.
Well, I've seen some of the well-armed women's program, that one specifically, and that seems to have some power and some energy behind it. But then sometimes the level of training that they're able to attain, because it's internalized, it's fun, it's benevolent, but it's minimal. And then when they do try to get into a more advanced program, whether it's the male pursuit or it's how the guys treat them or how they respond back to them, some seem really apprehensive in pursuing that any further than just where they're at.
Well, let me just say that I have heard from several women that the all-women organizations sometimes turn into a tea party, and less emphasis on the shooting, and now it becomes like,
it's a social
and I'm not
pursuit.
saying all, okay? Now, don't flood me with a lot of emails because you belong to a great organization who is very intense, and I compliment you for that. But the emails, I have received emails that said that I don't belong to this or I don't belong to that because it's a little bit tea party a little later in the day and less shooting, and they weren't comfortable with that. We come back, though. I'm going to show you part 1 of Forced Flat. Don't go away. Welcome back, folks. I kind of got into a little bit of a corner there, and it's been brought out to me quite plainly that some of the men's organizations in shooting also can become a little bit, I'm not going to say tea party, but less than serious. You want to go with that?
Well, if you get a group of guys together, there's always the ego involved and a lot of BS being thrown around. And I think that can kind of I don't want to say intimidate women, but probably push them away from those groups. They don't want to come in and contend with all of that. Why should they?
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
And I
that.
also think there's two sides of the coin here. You know, recreational shooting can be a lot of fun, but recreational shooting might not be purely the best training for an armed confrontation.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will argue with that. Although I think we're all very happy that maybe you went with your husband or your wife came with you, girlfriend, daughter in some cases, and you went out there, and even if it was recreational, you familiarized them with the responsibility of having a gun, and then you hope that they graduate from there.
Right, you're preparing them for the next step.
Right, and that's what you would hope for.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on the show about families talking and having a plan together, but does anyone actually have a training course where the family can go together, a husband and wife?
You know, yes, I know that I have been a member of one of those. In fact, up in Conroe, where Steve Vandermolen does a wonderful job, and he brings in families. I mean, the family comes together and does the shooting. So I think there are some. Okay, let me show you part one of Forced Flat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I just got off. Okay. Well, I guess I'll talk to you when I get there then. All right. Bye.
There. What about this one?
I like it. Let's wait till we're at a good spot.
You ready?
Oh, God.
Okay, let me ask this question that I've asked many times in the past. What's this woman doing wrong? I got the answer. Nothing. She's proceeding along in her life, and these people have come after her. Is she doing anything wrong?
No.
No, she's not doing anything. What does she need to do?
Well, that's the thing. There's certain actions that she could have taken, maybe to not be in that predicament. Maybe observing that somebody might have been following her.
Yeah.
That might have been the first clue.
Right.
And then if somebody's starting to pull up next to you, you had better do something.
Right. What do you suggest?
Well, if you can, exit. Speed. Hit the gas and go. If you can't,
hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes or
turn around.
Car's going to go right on by
yeah.
you. Now you're going to be behind them, and maybe you can U-turn. Maybe you can use your car as a weapon.
Right.
Blah blah blah. Depending upon how aggressive you want to become. Rich?
I don't really think that there's a whole lot you can do as far as outrunning someone. I think you're putting yourself in jeopardy, but being able to get off an isolated road, I think that's a bad choice to stay right there.
Based upon the information that we received, that's where she went. She was on a road that was less traveled. When we come back, I'll show you part two. Thanks for coming back, folks. I'm just going to start off by saying, you know what? If you want to drive up alongside of me and try to shoot my tires out, I guess I can deal with that. But if you do it to my wife, my daughter, any of my kids or my mother, probably going to really upset me at this point. So this actually took place, so I was told just on break, in Houston on a street that was well traveled, but they picked a spot where the traffic was just not there. So there was a possibility that she could have done some kind of evasion thing and maybe help would have arrived. I don't know. We're guessing at that point. It sure would have been nice if she'd had a gun. I mean, I think that would have solved a lot of problems, and I think that's probably what we're trying to tell you, is if we're going to give any advice to you, get down to the range and get with an instructor and feel comfortable. If you're in your car at night alone, I don't know. I think the old days are gone. I don't think that's possible anymore. I think you need to be aware of what's going on. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, ultimately, you're in charge of your own safety. And if that means that you become an expert driver, then you need to do that. And you're going to be your own bodyguard.
Yeah. How about some driving evasive techniques?
There's only 3 alternatives you have here as far as using your car. Speed up, slow down, or hit their car.
Or hit their car.
That's it.
Right.
And that could be a disaster if you hit their car,
Yeah.
because you both might wreck and then they have the upper hand. Right. So who knows? My first inclination would be, if I could, to hit the gas and try to get out of there. Okay. And if that didn't work, you take it from there. But it may at least buy you a little time. Yeah. And if you are armed, it might give you that time to access a firearm and do whatever you might need to do.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way, though. Me, I'm going to hit the brakes.
Okay.
I want that guy in front of me.
Yeah.
I just feel better if he's in front of me rather than shooting me in the back of the head. Hey, let me show you part 2. Let's see what happens.
Yo, I got her.
Please, no, help! Help, somebody help me!
Get out, don't fight.
No,
Come on, get out.
No, help me! No! Somebody help me!
Get up. If you move, I will kill you.
Okay, just please don't hurt me.
Yo, I got her. Grab her stuff. All right, I got it. If you tell anyone, I'll find you, okay? Let's go. Let's go.
Open the door, please. Somebody help me. Please, somebody. What's wrong? Somebody shot at me. Somebody robbed me. Please call the police. Come in.
Okay, we're aware of what street this took place on, and it was the time of night. She was getting off work. It was late, so maybe that accounts for the fact there weren't more cars around. So the first question I want to ask is, stay with the car or go running into the neighborhood banging on doors? What are you going to do?
It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If you stay with the car, what are the chances? Because you're sitting there helpless on a strand or a deserted road. What if somebody else comes along?
Get out of there. They took her car keys. They took all her belongings. She had no phone, no communication. She was able, still ambulatory and able to move. Get out. I mean, not the lesser of evils, but better than staying with the car.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, given how she reacted after the tires were flattened. I think that was what set this on that course, where that was pretty much the only alternative she had available to her.
Yeah, I would say she was lucky, because at some point there, I'm thinking we got a hostage rape thing going on, and that didn't happen. All they wanted was the purse, the money, and boom. They didn't even steal a car. Again, that surprised me as well. Okay, now how many reenactments have we done where someone comes running up to the house, banging on the door, and you open the door? You know, how many times have we advised people not to open the door, open it with a gun, call a...
Yeah, I was a little surprised that the older lady opened the door and invited her in, you know, and did it so quickly.
Yeah. Well, maybe the first mistake, and I hate to say it that way, maybe the first mistake was she stopped.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because just because the tires are flat doesn't mean the vehicle
We
has
know
to come
that
to
you
a
can
stop.
run on the rim for whatever amount of time, right?
Lose the rims, keep driving.
Keep driving.
And for me, if somebody pulls in like that after shooting my tires and my car has stopped, then I'm probably going to try to ram that door and keep them from coming out. And if they are coming out, then I really want to ram them and try to take them out.
She essentially complied right from the very beginning with their actions.
I think she was very scared.
True.
And she's alone, it's at night, gunfire. I mean, all these things are going to intimidate anyone, and it certainly intimidated her. When we come back, I have a couple of emails for you, and we'll wrap this up. Don't go away. Welcome back, viewers. This is a difficult situation for anyone to be in, whether you're male or female. Certainly if you take a female that's driving home at night after a full day or evening shift, and all of a sudden somebody rolls up alongside and starts shooting her tires out. Number one, she probably doesn't know that her tires are being shot. She could be thinking that she's being shot at. So she's into a panic. You want to run. I want to brake. I mean, somehow there's going to be some confrontation in here, huh?
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah, okay, well, basing that, I don't know that there's a lot of good advice here, except arm yourself. I'd feel a whole lot better if you had a gun in the car, and no matter what you do, you're going to end up armed, and when he approaches the vehicle, at least you have more of a decision to make, okay? Yeah. Is there anything else you can really say there?
No.
Yeah, they're bringing the fight to her.
Right. Well, here's the follow-up. You're going to love the follow-up. There is none, because no arrests were made. The case is open, and unfortunately, the young lady herself will probably be forever traumatized by what took place. Let me hear from you. If you have ideas, suggestions, inside information, I want to know about it. So email me, see me on social media, or contact me directly. I do have some emails, though, and I think we have time to read one or two of them. This one actually comes to me from a Las Vegas Metro law enforcement officer. Chris is a 16-year veteran of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, and he says, I'm finding it harder and harder to react in an off-duty capacity to save a life or even draw my weapon due to the concern of being shot by a good citizen. Okay, how do you feel about that, Wes?
Well, that's close to home, so I'd love to take this one on. I think there's a legitimate concern on the part of every officer, because we are always challenged to identify ourselves in an off-duty capacity when something happens. But I don't know of a case yet where this has happened. So I'm not sure what has generated the over-the-top concern on Chris's part.
We're talking about a 16-year veteran here. I mean, for him to make that comment tells me that some other off-duty officers must be thinking of the same thing.
Well, Mike Johnson from the Pensacola County Sheriff's Department, he was telling me that his department a few years ago had a situation where there was an off-duty officer involved in a shooting like this, and the responding officers couldn't tell. So now they've got a policy that these guys carry two wallets, one with their badge, one with their normal, ID and everything like that. So when they are in a shooting, they've got their badge out and they hold it up kind of in a circle, kind of like a halo, and they're announcing themselves as the responding officers come up.
Well, I think the concern is just the actions of the untrained rolling into a scene. I have a friend of mine that manufactures the sash that you can pull out that says police or sheriff on it. These are all affirmative attempts to try and identify yourself in an off-duty capacity, but you've got the excited public that you're going to have to be concerned about.
And I think that's what he's worried about. I mean, I think he's concerned that a good citizen who is seeing the same thing he is seeing mistakes him for being involved in it. And now he's concerned that it's going to be a return fire situation. It's going to be a.
But could you also issue challenge commands? Hey, I'm a police officer. Stop! I'm police.
And if you're going to be worried about the citizen, are you also worried then about officers from other agencies?
And I like
you
that
have,
answer.
you know, federal agencies, and you have armed correction officers in many jurisdictions. You have, you know, sheriff's departments, police departments, and on and on and on. Who's armed, who isn't, and all. You know, at least in the Northeast, it was kind of common. A lot of guys would wear their badge around the neck. Yeah. So you weren't even reaching. It's right there, you know. But we all know, though, in a stressful situation, sometimes you're focused on that gun, no, and that badge is non-existent.
Right. Right.
So.
There's nothing funny about it, but if you got 3 or 4 guys out there and they're all holding their hands up with badges in it, and I can see the whole thing kind of going south. Mm-hmm. and I don't mean that to be sarcastic. I'm just saying that I understand what Chris is trying to say here. He's worried about the fact that a citizen is not paying attention to all that, and they think they're doing the right thing.
And again, I will say that any off-duty situation is much, much heightened as far as danger. No communications, no body armor, probably a smaller gun, harder to identify you. You know,
those are tough situations.
And probably more so than even civilians, you have an awful lot of plainclothes cops getting shot by other cops who are actually working, never mind off-duty.
We're out of time. So thank you for tuning in this week. Be sure and email me. Chris, thank you very much for that email, by the way. Be safe, be trained, be alert.